Hi, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Rihanna, and welcome back to Fresh Off the Broke.
Fresh Off the Broke is about personal experiences growing up Asian American in a predominantly white community, Asian media, and Asian pop culture in general. Race has always been a sensitive topic. Every day there are debates over race. With our podcast, we intend to shed light on the experiences of first-generation Asian immigrants, not put them on a pedestal.
We understand that race isn't everything, but there should be an acknowledgement of people of color, the knowledge gap, and the racial divide that will ideally be broken. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the episode. Today we will be discussing jungle Asians versus fancy Asians. And just a very brief disclaimer before we get started. If you have never heard of these terms, please note that they are not real terms, and they are actually used to put down Southeast/South Asians. So please don't actually use these terms outside of this context. Thank you.
Yeah, like Rihanna said, I guess they do exist as terms, but they're not terms to be used in everyday language.
Yeah, we shouldn't be using them.
Yes, this episode is talking about... I'm trying to think of how to word this. This episode is talking about these concepts and why they're bad. So you shouldn't be going around calling someone a jungle Asian or a fancy Asian. Although I guess the fancy, you'll see it later in the episode, but the fancy Asian isn't exactly a derogatory
term.
Yeah. Anyway, jungle Asian versus fancy Asian. What does that mean? What is a jungle Asian? What is a fancy Asian? So these are, I guess, very casual terms and casual two categories that people have decided to place Asians in. And so when you hear fancy versus jungle, there's probably already a mental image of one's probably more socially acceptable and more liked, and one is bad. Like one's good, one's bad. One's fancy, one's not fancy. And so fancy Asian is usually used for East Asian, such as Chinese people, Korean people, Japanese people, like the
big three.
Yeah, because there's, and this is another episode in itself, but when people think Asian, a lot of the time they only think East Asian, and specifically these places, and not, the rest of Asia. But I digress. So fancy Asians is for the big three, like Rihanna said, just the East Asian, the fancy, more socially acceptable. I don't know. I guess mainstream is appropriate here. And then jungle is used to, like Rihanna said, put down Southeast and South Asian. And the reason why they say jungle is because it's supposed to be like describing them as primitive or savages. Because when you think of jungle, you think of the wild, rainforest, and places like that.
Think of like how when the white man colonized like places, the white man described people as savages or like primitive. It's essentially that, but used in comparison to East Asians, essentially. Which I find this very interesting because it came from, like, it originated, weird word, originated or at least got popularized, not really sure, by something that wasn't serious in the first place. It comes from a very interesting point of view or perspective because it was popularized by Ali Wong, who was doing a stand-up bit, or like skit. Wow, bit is the right word, right?
Yeah, it was during her special.
Okay, yeah. And her line essentially was fancy Asians host Olympics and jungle Asians host diseases.
Mm-hmm.
I say it's interesting because just so people know, if you're not aware, Ali Wong is half Chinese and half Viet. And by her definition of fancy and jungle Asian, that means that she would be half fancy and half jungle Asian as well herself. So there's already some like nuance to how this was created.
Yeah, and I mean the line wasn't an isolated line. It was she was talking about her and her husband because, like you said, she's half Chinese and half Vietnamese, and he's half Filipino and half Japanese. And she was kind of joking around about, I guess, their dynamic and the fact that they're both half fancy Asian and half jungle Asian because she is half Chinese, which would be the half fancy, and then the half Vietnamese would be half jungle. And then he's half Filipino and half Japanese, Filipino being jungle and Japanese being fancy. And she was saying, like, the fancy Asians are the Chinese, the Japanese, they have to do fancy things like host Olympics, and jungle Asians host diseases. And this is interesting because I yes, she was joking. Yes. I don't know if it helped. Like, I don't know if I want to say help the cause, but I don't know if because it kind of furthers the whole fancy Asian versus jungle Asian
Mm-hmm.
thing. Because she wasn't necessarily being racist
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
being like looking down on her husband for being half Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
She was, I guess, joking around about the fact that they're both half fancy and half jungle, so I guess they get both sides of everything. And I mean, she didn't invent the terms fancy Asian or jungle Asian, but I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
It's
interesting.
kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't want to place too much on her because she's not necessarily core or I guess the creator of the problem in a way, but
Mm-hmm.
fancy Asians hosting the Olympics and jungle Asians hosting diseases.
Yeah. It's
That's
like,
that's a lot to unpack there.
yeah. It's just so like yeah, she can say that, but like should she have said that, you know?
Mhm. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know because I don't know.
Yeah. I
There
will
wasn't.
say, oh,
Yeah.
sorry. You go first.
Okay. There was an article, and I'll link it in the description where someone mentioned this. And the article was called Reclaiming Jungle Asians, the person's Filipino, and they talked about Ali Wong's bit, or like that line. And she said that it was, she said that it was, I don't know if I want to say cool, because she didn't say the word cool, but she said that on the surface, the jokes may have been seen as insensitive, but it was the first time that the unspoken hierarchy was directly defined in America. And I guess I see that, but I don't know. I also don't know if I do. And that's not to bash the writer, because the article itself was just talking about how she wanted to reclaim Jungle Asian and embrace like the indigenous roots or of her Filipino culture. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's not necessarily Ali Wong that's the problem. It's like the fancy Asian, Jungle Asian thing. I don't know. Maybe she went on for an extra line. It was like, it would be nice if y'all were nicer to Jungle Asians.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But then again, it's just like, I don't know.
It's a
Put the I
weird
don't know.
situation.
Put the I don't know counter on for this episode.
Drinking game, except you'd pass out.
Oh no. No. When we were researching for this episode and we were trying to find out where these terms came from, we couldn't actually pinpoint a time or a person or anything. But something that came up multiple times was this comedy special. People said that it was popularized by it, or like the terms were popularized by it, or what was the word? Oh, people heard about it for the first time there. So I guess in a way you could say that she raised awareness.
Yeah.
In a way. Because I mean, I guess I've yet to hear people use fancy Asians and jungle Asians in a non-commentary way.
Yeah.
Usually when people are putting down those that fit the jungle Asian category, they use other terms. They probably say things like uneducated or savages or things like that. They wouldn't say those are jungle Asian.
Yeah. It's not like a popularly used term in like not an everyday setting, but I don't know. People don't really use it in that sense. Which I guess is a good thing, but like doesn't mean that they don't put down Southeast and East Asians still, or Southeast and South Asians.
One thing that I have noticed a lot just over the years, not really a new thing, but people on social media tend to sometimes purposely, sometimes indirectly make fun of Southeast Asians and South Asians through social media trends. I think I can't exactly remember if I brought this up on podcast before, but one time I saw these videos, or I saw a video and then other videos that were similar to it, where people were talking about dating red flags. and someone said if they're Filipino or Vietnamese. I think they only said those two places. And originally people were laughing because it fit the whole well, I mean there's the stereotype, not the, I guess, is it a stereotype? Yeah, it's a stereotype, the like Kevin Wynn, like
Yeah.
guy
The
is a
Asian F
Vietnamese.
boy.
Yeah. But then people started taking notice that it kind of just seems like when they're Southeast Asian.
I think we have talked about this because I remember, maybe it was just me and you having a conversation, but I remember like also seeing that, and like on my phone, and I looked at the comments, and like all the comments were either like people saying like, oh yeah, when he's Filipino, biggest red flag, or like biggest ick or something. And then the other half of the comments were like, I really hope you guys are Filipino, because this comment section is not it. And like
It kind of got to a level where it was just like,
yeah,
racist.
yeah. And like some of the comments, like the articles, users that I was clicking on, like the videos they were posting, they were like not Asian, period.
Oh, the people? Some of the people were.
Yeah, like some of them fully like were not even close to Filipino. But again, like you never know. Obviously, like it's a good indication, but if you post videos online, you still don't know if that person if that's actually them or whatever. But like I was seeing that, and then actually recently I was watching a TikTok where instead of where someone was talking about like how certain Asian groups like get overlooked, except for the big five. So they use the term the big five, and the five were China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam. I was gonna Vietnamese. Vietnam and the Philippines, and that was their definition of the big five. And then it was actually a stitched TikTok. I can't find it anymore, but someone stitched it being like, oh my gosh, like I'm part of the big five now, because this guy's Filipino. He's like, we're moving up. Which like I get it, that's funny, but also like, bro, like don't perpetuate this idea. But I have noticed this, that well, maybe it is just because like of the side of TikTok that I am on, and TikTok's algorithm being very, very scary. But I have noticed a bigger trend of like Filipino guys, or girls or people getting more popular within like that side of social media, like the Asian side of social media, you know what I mean? And it's interesting to see the shift, but I also don't know if the people who consume this media really even know the distinction, because typically the people who are like Filipino or like quote unquote jungle Asian who are getting popular on social media don't really look Southeast Asian. Like they fully just fit the East Asians like
Oh
beauty
yeah, for sure.
standards.
I've seen, and it's so weird the compliments they get, because
Uh-huh.
they get the comment that they look Korean.
It's like, you look like Jimin.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess for one, just to be, I guess not fair, because it's not fair to anyone. But Asian people in general, like East Asians and Southeast Asian people, what I'm trying to say, do all get the comment that they look like a K-pop star. But it is kind of weird that you're complimenting someone by telling them they look Korean.
Yeah.
Does that mean it would be bad if I didn't look Korean? And it's just kind of, I guess it also just ties into our next point where alongside or part of the whole fancy Asian versus jungle Asian thing is also kind of in a high school clique way, separating the cool and uncool Asian,
For
the
sure.
popular and unpopular Asian. And there's a lot that happens within that too. Because here's the thing, even though Chinese people technically fall under fancy Asian because they are East Asian, out of the big three, it feels so weird to say, out of China, Korea, and Japan, uh, Chinese people get made fun of a lot
For
on
sure.
social media, like on TikTok or other places where people will make fun of Chinese dialects, like Mandarin, and make fun of songs. Because, I mean, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this where they say how it makes them kind of sad because when a Korean song is trending, whether that be because it's a background audio for a trend, like a TikTok audio or something, people will talk about how it's so cute or so great and whatever. But whenever a Chinese audio is trending, it's always for humorous reasons. And it's always because people think it's funny. Like there was that song. It was like.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, that's a beloved song. I've known that song. I don't know if I want to say all my life, but I've known that song for a really long time. It's a very beloved song. Like, like it's just a song. But for some reason, people thought it was so funny, and then I can't. What was the meme again that came with that song?
It's just people singing it.
There was the song was used as like a punchline, and then a lot of other songs that happened too, and then there was the
John
whole thing with
Cena.
yeah, I was just about to say.
And like
And
that's still going on too.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that. So if you didn't know, John Cena, who is best known for being a wrestler, right?
Now best known for being an internet meme.
Yeah, and for not being seen.
Yeah.
Because if you're unaware, what his whole thing was, you can't see me because you can't see him. He's too fast.
Just can't.
He comes out of nowhere. That was the whole thing. And then there was the internet took it very literally very far as a joke, but just very far. So whenever John Cena was in a photo, people would not see him. So
yeah,
let's just say Rihanna took a photo with John Cena.
Oh my god.
People would say, why is there a shadow next to Rihanna? Or like, this is such a nice picture. Like, love to see Rihanna by herself.
yeah. If it was a photo of me and John Cena, it'd be like, why'd you take a picture by yourself?
And why is there just this empty space? Things like that. So that's background information. And then further background information, John Cena, when he was promoting a movie or filming a movie, something along those lines, he learned Mandarin because it was in China. And his Mandarin is actually very good. Let me just say that. Let me make that very clear. He's good.
Yeah, and I don't think it was John Cena's intention to have it turn out like this.
Yeah, it fully wasn't. He went viral a while ago, a first time. Well, not for the first time ever, but in terms of speaking Mandarin, because he was talking about Lao Ganma or Lo Gonma, which is spicy kind of paste, like a very famous like Chinese like condiment.
Mhm.
And he was talking about how much he liked it, and people were really impressed. So a lot of Chinese people were saying, "Wow, his Chinese is better than mine." Well, by Chinese people, I mean from the diaspora, mostly from the
Mhm.
West.
Mhm.
And then a second time he went viral because he was making a video with ice cream, and he was promoting a movie. And I really despise what happened to that video because there was nothing wrong with it. And I'm not saying people aren't allowed to have fun or laugh at things, but there are underlying issues with what
Yeah.
happened with this video.
Yeah.
It was John Cena, he had ice cream, he said, and the thing is, I can't even say what he said without just immediately the mocking imitations playing in my head, but he said something
Yeah.
along the lines of, "Good morning, China. Right now, I have ice cream. Like, I love ice cream," something like that. Then he started talking about the movie, and then he started singing a little.
Very wholesome.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with it, but people thought it was so funny just because he had somewhat of an English accent, which is a given. I mean, did you expect I mean, there are people that are native English speakers that have very accurate, excuse me, Mandarin accents, but
Mhm.
that's not the point. It's just it was so weird and wrong. So people took that, especially the part where we were talking about ice cream, because he and the thing is, I don't even think he said it wrong. He didn't say it wrong. So ice cream in Mandarin is 冰淇淋, and he said, what was it? He was like, 早上好，中国，现在我有冰激凌, which is a little off, but it's not wrong. That's
Mhm.
just it's very good actually for what it is.
Mhm.
And also just in general. Like his Mandarin is good. Let's not get it twisted. And so people took like Bingley and people turned it into
Mhm.
Bingchilling. Bing chilling. And just so many jokes were made from that.
Yeah.
People would just say it all the time. And like Rihanna mentioned, it's still going. It came back
Yeah, it
a
did.
few months ago or however long ago recently. And I don't know where it came from. Like, I don't know why it came back, but it did come back.
Mhm.
And people, when they saw videos of Chinese people, would comment Bing chilling on the
Yeah.
video. So you see a Chinese person and you just go Bing chilling.
Yeah.
Do we not see what's wrong with that?
Yeah. And like it's so clear that people are making fun of the language because there's literally nothing wrong in the video.
Yeah. And I mean, even what was the other song? Super I oh not yeah. Well, Bing chilling was made into a song, or like people kind of like remixed the video of John Cena talking and then turned it into a song because they thought it was funny.
Mhm.
And then there's also another song that's kind of been meme. I mean, so many Chinese songs have been meme.
Yeah.
But there was another one, the Super Idol, which for the longest time Rihanna and I loved and would listen to a lot. Because
Still
it was a
do.
cute and
Just
happy song.
yeah.
Super Idol, the shadow of Dominion, the
We
chance.
literally took a test, an online test, like for school, listening to that on repeat.
Oh my god, yeah, we did.
We did, and it helped us.
Yeah, we had an online exam and we were trying to hype ourselves up.
And we listened to it, and it was great. It was a great
Yeah.
experience.
Hmm. And people also made fun of that. And the thing is, to a certain, a very, 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 very limited extent, I understand it because some of the videos that guy made when he was singing Super Idol were humorous, but they were humorous in the sense that he was trying to make them funny or trying to make them
Yeah.
cute.
Like cute funny,
Because
not like,
there was
haha,
the
listen
thing
to this.
there was the thing with the water bottle where he like squirted water or like sprayed water or something. And it was very cute. And people thought it was cringy, like whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But people then just it's just making fun of just the way he sounded, but it wasn't. People weren't making fun of the way he sounded. They were making fun of the Chinese language.
Yeah, the language.
Chinese languages, and that is just weird and wrong.
Yeah.
It. I guess this is just another layer to the fancy Asian versus jungle Asian thing, because China, like Chinese people, fall under fancy Asian, but they're kind of on the fancy Asian fence. They're the butt of jokes. A fancy Asian, and I mean, even if you can be from a fancy Asian region and then still be considered a jungle Asian, because Southern Chinese people are considered jungle Asians. Like I'm technically, if we're just talking about, I guess it would be like fancy Chinese versus jungle Chinese, like Northern Chinese people versus Southern Chinese people, because I'm Southern. I don't know why. When I say Southern, I think of Texas.
South, like America.
Yeah.
Not South America, it was South of America.
The United States.
Yes.
Yeah. But that is also a divide in itself. And it just, there's so many layers to this.
Yeah. Interesting that you bring up a distinction between like North and South, because another big issue with that, like North versus South, and the issue of fancy versus jungle Asians is colorism and like the issues behind that. Because typically North or like central areas or just East Asians, in the bigger, broader term of like fancy versus jungle, are fairer skinned, right? And as we've mentioned before, in the term of Asian beauty standards, fair skin is a signifier of wealth. So you can afford to like not be working on a farm and doing like poor labor work type thing. While those in either the South or quote unquote jungle Asians, they have darker skin, which means that they're like outside working, doing typical poor jobs, like working on a farm and stuff.
Yeah. And the thing with colorism is, along with it being a signifier of wealth, it's also, and this is awful, when you're darker, you're considered dirty.
Yeah, that's a big one too. Like your skin is dirty.
And it plays into the whole jungle thing because it's like you're savage, you're primitive, you're
and like
wild.
the whole like colonization, like white people came over or lighter skinned people came over, saw the darker people, said, you don't look like us, you're dirty. That's it. And it even ties into the issue of classism, especially since like all these things are interconnected, but like especially since you're referring to groups of Asians as fancy versus jungle. And again, jungle, think like primitive savages. Like, just why? Why are we using these terms that are so like inherently like in your face wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing about this is it's kind of there's a hierarchy and then there's also just like this big divide, whether that be like a class divide or a
Mm-hmm.
social divide. I guess that's kind of not that's kind of the same thing or very similar. And if you have the acceptable and the well liked and the approved presentable fancy Asians
Mm-hmm.
that are inside and pale and do good things, I guess, according to the criteria, I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you have the jungle Asians that are darker, that people think are dirty
Mm-hmm.
and uneducated
Mm-hmm.
and poor. And there was one more thing I wanted to say. Oh, because of the whole stereotype of being primitive, there's people also look down on, even just within Asia, look down on people that eat with their hands because
Mm-hmm.
not all Asian cultures eat with their hands, at least like not regularly. I mean, everyone eats with their hand, like
Mm-hmm.
everyone. In well, okay, maybe I don't know. I don't want to make that big of a generalization, but a lot of people around the world eat things with their hand
Mm-hmm.
at one point or
Yeah.
another. You eat a cookie, you usually do that with your hand.
Mm-hmm. But like in this context, we're talking about like culturally you eat with your hands like traditionally. So like I know from personal experience, in Filipino culture, you eat with your hands. Like
Mhm.
everything. Like rice, food, you eat with your hands traditionally. That's changed a lot now, but like you're like traditionally you eat with your hands, and even like South Asian culture as well, you eat with your hands. Um I think Southeast Asian, there's a mix of utensil versus hands. But like I know for a fact that Filipinos use hands. I know that lots of South Asian cultures also use hands. Um, but yeah,
I never understood the whole thing about looking down on people that eat with their hands and they say it's dirty because who's saying they're not washing their hands?
yeah. I mean, interesting because I remember hearing this from, not to start a whole new tangent, but I'll just mention this briefly. But if you
Yeah.
guys remember, like Eat Your Kimchi or Eat Your Sushi, like that YouTube channel, it's just two white people, two Canadians who lived in first Korea and then Japan, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, is
Um,
that why it went from eat your kimchi to eat your sushi?
yeah. Um, which I will say, like, they weren't like racist or anything. They were very clearly like cultural appreciation people. Um, and they were talking about this idea of like chopsticks and using hands and how like people in the West found that weird, but they were pointing out like as white people, they're like shouldn't you be able to look at the concept of a fork and realize that that's incredibly barbaric, like you're stabbing your food in order to eat it,
Hmm.
which is an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
You know, this is also semi unrelated, but I mean, it's related to what you just said, but it's a little unrelated to fancy versus jungle Asian. One thing that I never really understood about, I guess, Western, like European, like ways of eating is why are there so many spoons and forks? And
Yeah,
you got your soup
I
spoon,
was
you
gonna
got your
say soups.
your what was it? Like your teaspoon, your ice cream spoon.
Yeah, too many, don't
There's
understand.
there's just this whole thing to high class fine dining. You got what is it, a salad fork or a salad? I want to say that's right.
Mm.
And then you got your regular fork, you got your fruit fork. How
Don't
many
understand it.
utensils are there?
Yeah.
It's just so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Y'all
Let me
hypocrites.
count 1 sec. There's wow, that's a lot of things. There's generally okay. Wait. Wow, there's a fish fork, a dinner fork, a salad fork, a soup bowl, a salad plate, a dinner plate, salad knife, dinner knife, fish knife, teaspoon, soup spoon, oyster fork, butter knife, bread dish, cake fork, dessert spoon, water glass, oh, and then red wine, white wine glass. That's impressive.
That seems like
Cordial
a headache.
sherry. I don't know what that means. Wow, I do not know what I would do with myself if all of that was placed before me.
Yeah, I think I'd have a panic attack.
And then there's also the whole etiquette of the way you place your knife and fork indicates something to the waiter.
Yeah.
I would feel so bad if I accidentally indicated something negative and all I was doing was just putting it away.
Man, that reminds me. A person that we went to high school with was talking about how her boyfriend, like, she was embarrassed when her boyfriend came over to eat. They were both white, but she was embarrassed when he came over to eat because he like didn't understand etiquette, but her family was very hard on etiquette like that. And she was like embarrassed because he would eat like spaghetti in a very rude way, but like the way she described it just sounded like he was just eating spaghetti and enjoying his meal, you know?
Wonder, I wonder how. I wonder what the difference was.
I know.
Was it that he swirled it too much? That'd be kind of
Maybe
funny, to be honest.
like one too many times.
Yeah, just you swirled a giant ball of spaghetti. I mean, I guess, yeah, I get the etiquette, the polite way of doing it would probably be to swirl a little bit and then you eat it and then you swirl some more. They probably just, yeah, he probably just really enjoyed the spaghetti.
Yeah,
Etiquette is also a very like classes.
for sure.
There's etiquette classes and then because here's the thing. I mean, I'm not saying that having etiquette or being cordial, I don't know if I want to say cordial, right? Yeah, let's
Yeah,
just say being cordial and having etiquette is bad. It's just when I guess the agenda behind it and what you're imposing on people. Because to impose on me the way of eating where there's all those forks and knives and spoons and everything, and then I'm uneducated if I don't eat that way, it's it's just a little because especially in that sense, it's like a Eurocentric way. And then
hmm
because I eat with chopsticks or
hmm
hand, I'm savage. In the
yeah.
same way that I mean, people, some people that use chopsticks probably look down on people that only use their hands.
There's just so many layers.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm kind of intrigued by?
But
There are these plates, but they're kind of deep. And so it's like a soup plate. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about,
I think I
but
do.
but I've seen them online and also out in stores or at restaurants where it's a plate, but then the middle of the plate is I can't what do you call it? It's just it's concave. Is that the word? Concave, right? Concave versus convex. Convex is is inverted. Yeah, so it's concave, and you drink soup out of it, but it's a plate. It's a plate that's ever so. I don't know if I want to say ever so slightly, but it's a cave. A cave. I apologize, everyone. It's a plate that dips in, and I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I personally think it's a little bit of an unnecessary invention, but that's just my opinion.
I like how far we've come in this discussion.
Yeah, we've done it all. Talking about fine dining. You know what? We should vlog ourselves taking an etiquette, like learning the utensil.
Oh God. I'm
and
down.
Then we do a test at the end.
Guys, let us know if you want us to do that and film it and post it. Because we will. Even if you say no.
And then right after the class, we just eat with our hands.
Yeah.
In front of the instructor.
Yeah.
And the instructor is not prepared, does not know that we're actually abandoning all the things we learned.
Yeah, no.
And that is going to be our act of rebellion, our sign of protest, I guess, to this system.
An ode to our oh, whoa, I can't speak. An ode to our culture. That's hard to say.
Ode to our culture.
Okay, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
What?
Maybe it's just me.
An ode to our culture. Ode to. When anyone says ode, I just think of Ode to Joy.
Me too.
The song. There's a lot of music in this episode. Have you noticed that?
There is.
I don't know. Today's just a musical day.
It is.
We'll have to break out in the song and dance.
I'll pass. I'll support you.
You say that like I know how to do. I know how to break out into a musical act, like a musical theater.
Maybe that's like your secret passion.
No, I mean nothing against musical theater. I don't know. Okay. I don't even. Why are we talking about this? But I've never actually seen a musical before. I mean, I've seen a school musical before, or a VCR musical before. Sometimes I feel old when I say things like that. Because I realize that VCRs are kind of obsolete now.
Yeah, pretty much.
And here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with having grown up with VCRs, okay?
Yeah.
Or having grown up even before VCRs. It's just interesting to see technology change over time. So yeah, fun fact, I am not capable of being a musical theater person. Contrary to the lies Rihanna is currently feeding you. Rihanna actually is the one.
I'm really not. If you combine the both of us, we would be a musical theater person. Not even, but like maybe. It would be possible, but I don't think we would want to do that as a combined person.
Combined? This is too much. Let's how did this even happen?
Don't know. But okay, all in all, we just want people to, one, be aware of jungle versus fancy Asian, and two, please don't use these terms unless talking about how bad they are or having this type of discussion.
And I mean, it's not that we would assume that you would anyways. I mean, we trust y'all. We're buddies here. I like to think that we have a level of trust, right?
We do. But yeah.
And I guess take notice of these things.
Yeah.
Maybe in conversation the next time you hear someone putting down South Asian, calling them savages. This sounds so cheesy, but you could say, hey, let's not.
Yeah, don't.
Sorry, so much easier said than done, but you know what I mean. Just take notice of these things.
Yeah.
Because even if it's just a quick, hey, that's not very nice, could go a long way. It might not necessarily fundamentally change that person, but to acknowledge it.
And even for your own self, because if you don't really take these things into account, you are like fed these ideologies unconsciously through social media anyways. So it's good to like have an understanding, because I can see, like, when we were talking about the whole like red flag Filipino or Viet like type of videos, like I can see someone scrolling past that and being like, oh, I didn't know that was a red flag. Boom. Now it's apparently a red flag because this is trending. Like,
you know what actually is a red flag?
What? We have a lot.
Wait, what?
We have a lot of red flags that we've discussed.
Oh, I thought you just meant that you had... I thought you were being self-deprecating.
Oh, I mean, even besides being self-deprecating, I'm dealing with a red flag.
Oh.
But no.
Are we gonna get into that?
No! Pay for the Patreon and we'll get into it.
That?
I'm promoting our Patreon. That we don't have.
Okay, please. My point.
Yes.
What? I was gonna say, you know what is a red flag? Putting down other Asians.
Period.
You know what's a green flag?
What?
Tuning in the fob.
Also, period.
Yes. People that listen to fob, automatic green flag.
For real.
Bright green, shining, glimmering, shimmering.
Splendid.
So, shout out to y'all. Thanks for tuning in today. Leave a comment and let us know if you've heard of Jungle Asians and Fancy Asians, or even if you had seen or heard conversation, discourse about this outside of these terms. Because like we said, Jungle Asians and Fancy Asians, they're not like professional, clinical, any kind of terms like that.
Yeah.
There's
no weight to them.
Well, I mean, there's
terms of like...
Yeah. I know what you mean. If you've seen, like, I don't know, maybe have you had someone tell you they're Filipino, they're a red flag, or I would never date, let me think, I don't know, I'd never date a Cambodian person. I would rather date a Korean person, or even the whole, what we're saying about comment sections.
Yeah.
People's comment sections. Complimenting a Vietnamese person by telling them they look Korean.
Yeah.
Or they look Japanese. You look like an anime character. You look like a K-pop idol. Oh, never heard of this before. Maybe
Yeah.
today's your first time learning about this. Maybe you never noticed this before. Always happy to hear about that. Because we have gotten messages or comments like that before, and it's always really nice because we appreciate that we're able to, I guess, share these things with you. And I mean, obviously some things that we share aren't happy things. They're more on a serious and negative side. But they're important things to talk about nonetheless. So leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what you're thinking about, what you've seen, what you've heard. We're all here for it.
Well, if you guys like this episode and want to stay connected with us, check out our website in the description. It contains links to our streaming platforms such as Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and more. Follow us for more behind-the-scenes content, announcements, and other random things we decide to put on there.
Next time. Bye.
Bye.